motorcycle maniacs. Today I'm going to show you how to properly reassemble the carburetor of the Kawasaki GPZ600R, in this case a model from '85. As always, I'll demonstrate this using a single carburetor. The others are identical in construction, except for the jetting. I'll talk more about that in the video. First, I'll show you what we need for the job. So, what we need is a small but powerful flashlight, a Phillips screwdriver in size PH2, various flathead screwdrivers. I always have a selection of those on hand, a thin fuel hose, and a small pair of needle nose pliers. Oh, the drift pin, we actually don't need that for reassembly, but that's no big deal. A 12mm combination wrench and an 8mm combination wrench. And of course, it's a good idea if you've gotten yourself a proper repair kit. I've linked it for you in the video description. Please make sure to check out the video description. If I think of anything else about the video later, I can write it in there, because you can't change the video itself anymore. And to answer the question that keeps coming up right away, does the carburetor guy actually make any money from these repair kits? That's the cool part. If you order the repair kit from the link in the video description that I provided for you, or even something like this silicone spray, which is also great for assembly, then you're supporting this channel's maintenance and growth, and also a shop with fantastic reviews. Alright, friends, before we get started, let's check a few things here for, flow. First up is this little brass tube set in here. This is where the choke draws its fuel from. I've just got a little fuel hose here. Yeah, I put one end in my mouth, blow through it, and press the other end flush against here. And then you can hear the air flowing through. And now there are two more channels through which, the main jet's nozzle and the small idle jet draw air. So, and you can see that best right here at the front, yeah? Here are these two small jets in, a kind of recess. And now I'm going to shine the lamp down here into the mounting opening for the main jet and here into the opening for the idle jet, and we'll show you that now. Alright. Yeah, you can see the light coming through. Yeah, I'm flashing it a bit here. And now the other opening. Fantastic. This way, you can check if there's a passage here. And if everything is clear, then we can start with the assembly. Alright, let's start with the assembly here on the float chamber side. I'll begin with the main jet holder. That's this one here, right? All the small holes need to be clear, and then it gets installed. Of course, I've already sprayed a bit of silicone spray into this assembly opening so that everything slides in smoothly. Now you'll need the 8mm open-end ring spanner. You can use it to tighten this here. Remember, it's just a small thread made of fairly soft material. So please, don't overdo it. Next, I'll screw in the main jet up here. Please use a screwdriver that fits well, so you don't put too much stress on the material here. Screw it in, and then you can use the open-end ring spanner here to hold it in place, so to speak. Please note that if you have a 4-cylinder carburetor, the jetting is different for the inside and outside cylinders. That's because it's about cooling the inner cylinders. They get less cooling air from the airstream. So, larger jets are installed here to provide more internal cooling, and smaller ones are used on the outside. So please make sure to pay attention to that. Alright, that's tight. Next up is the small idle jet. That's this one, it gets screwed in here, specifically at this position. So I just let it drop in here, and then, using a screwdriver that fits as well as possible, please don't use one that's too small, you could easily damage it that way. The jet is fastened. Yeah, and that's it for jets here. Next up is the float. And the float needle valve goes onto the float. Hang on, let me get back to this, there we go. Maybe this is better, right? That way we don't have so much of that background, and the float needle valve is hooked on here like this, into this little opening and then onto this metal tab. That's sometimes not so easy for me, because I have to make sure you can see it and still do it properly here. As always, I'll put the float level in the video description for you. So make sure to check there. And now it gets installed. So, the float needle valve now has to go into this inlet part here. And once that's in place, this little pin gets pushed through here. Everything needs to move smoothly. If it doesn't move easily, you need to check again to make sure everything is clean. And this pin just sits in here like this. That's what it looks like. And now you can adjust the float level, if necessary. And, then the lid goes on. There's already a new gasket in the lid. Please make sure that this curve here isn't the same. So the gasket basically has a right and a left side, so make sure it sits correctly in the groove here. And now the lid goes on and is screwed back on with these 4 screws. I'd recommend, just like I've already done over here, that you use new Allen screws. It looks nice and is easier to loosen later on. And that's what I'm going to do now, and then we'll continue here with the mixture screw. In the next step, we'll move on to the mixture adjustment screw. That's this one here. Here, it's already fully assembled, so to speak. And here you can see the order using the old screw as an example. So, this is the mixture adjustment screw itself with the tip. The tip needs to be in good condition. A spring goes on top of that, then a small washer, and an O-ring. I've already assembled all of that here. And so that nothing slips off while I'm assembling it, when I hold it upside down, I just position the carburetor so I can mount it horizontally here. I've also sprayed a little silicone spray here, and now the mixture adjustment screw is screwed in all the way until it stops. Please be careful with this. Then there's a specific number of turns that you unscrew it again for the basic setting. As always, I'll write that for you in the video description. Alright, it's sitting nice and deep in there. As I said, I'll include the basic setting in the video description so you can look it up there. We're done on the underside, and now we'll continue up here with the diaphragm and the slide. Let's continue with the slide and the diaphragm. Please check the diaphragm against the light for any cracks or damage. And, I've got another tip for you. What do you do if the diaphragm has shrunk and become too small after being left out for a long time? Is it possible that the material just shrinks a bit? I'll link you a video in the top right corner showing what you can do in this case to be able to install it properly again. The part load needle, that's this one, now goes in here. There's a hole in the middle here, and I just let it drop in there. Like that. That's what it looks like then. And it's held in place by the spring with this little plastic piece. This little plastic piece goes in down here and basically keeps the spring from slipping. Yeah, if I press on the spring, it pops up here. So when the spring is pressing down, the needle can't move upwards. Alright, now this gets mounted up here. Wait a second, I need a little bit more silicone spray so that everything slides smoothly. It only goes in one way, yeah. So if I put the slider on the wrong way, like I just did, it won't work. So it has to go the other way around. Of course, the needle has to slide down into the nozzle holder of the main jet. A bit fiddly. There we go, now it's in place, and please make sure that the membrane sits exactly with its edge in the groove of the carburetor housing, okay? It's really important that you don't pinch it and that it seals properly here. Finally, the cover goes on. The cover has this little nub, and the spring needs to go in there. Hold on, I'll try to do it again so you can see it here. Yeah, so I thread it on here. Alright, and now the cover can go on. And here too, I'm using 4 new screws again. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll screw those in now, and then we'll move on to the last step, the choke. Finally, the choke is reinstalled here. I also sprayed that thoroughly with silicone spray, including the mounting opening, of course. So, now you have to screw this in here. It's a little bit fiddly to get this into place. Alright, okay, it's caught. Finally, it gets tightened here with a 12mm open-end ring spanner. So you have to be a bit careful here about how you position it, and make sure you don't damage the plastic. Alright, that's enough. Quick function check. Moves perfectly. Yeah, folks, that's it for us. I'll link the disassembly video for you up top now. And, what works really well here is, you have this throttle shaft here, right? So if you spray a bit of silicone spray in here, it'll basically run down to this moving part down here. That's usually sealed with a felt. Sorry, it's typically sealed with a felt. So, move it around a bit so it spreads, and then I'll turn it over and do the same thing on the other side. The springs here also get a little bit of lubrication, here and here, so everything moves smoothly. And now, if you want, you can do a basic throttle valve adjustment. You'll find a link to throttle valve synchronization above, and with that, I'll say goodbye now. I'm glad if you enjoyed it, and I'd appreciate a thumbs up and of course a subscription to my channel, and I wish you lots of fun with your project. See you in the next video. Ciao.